I know that this is my first time doing a chapter review, but after reading 198, you know I had to do it to him. I do also want to talk a bit about Maki's development as a character. She's gotten an insane amount in the last few chapters, so stick around for that. But let me not hold you guys for too long. The last chapter ended with Naoya performing his domain expansion, but in this chapter we got to actually see how the domain works, as well as something people have been waiting for very long. How people like Toji and Maki interact with domain expansions. The chapter immediately starts off with such a nice looking spread. Daido and Mio are trapped within this black void and we see Naoya in front of them, with this fleshy amalgamation that has this massive eye in the middle. And I think this look really fits the whole eldritch curse room aesthetic that Naoya has had in the Culling game so far. As both Mio and Daido peer into the eye of the amalgamation, both of them are struck with these thin looking tentacle things. Daido instinctively blocks his neck, which is a really nice touch because we've seen that he's a pretty instinctual character, and in contrast Mio doesn't react in time and is struck in the neck. At first I thought this was some instant kill type shit, but the domain is way more nuanced than that. I mean, I say that, but it may as well be a fucking instant kill, man, Jesus. Naoya claps his hands and the two fighters feel as if nothing has happened and charge towards Naoya, and in that moment blood immediately starts flowing from every orifice of their bodies. And this is the point in which we get info about how the domain works, and to be honest, this shit is so crazy. Anybody that Naoya touches has to move like he does or they'll be frozen for 1 second. Within his domain, the sorcerers within it have their bodies targeted on a cellular level, and if a sorcerer moves under the effect of the domain that isn't the same way Naoya is moving, every cell's movement will be out of alignment. There's a decent amount to unpack here. This domain takes Naoya's projection sorcery, which has the same principle of being frozen for 1 second, and dials it up to 100. Given the fact that Naoya is extremely fast and from what I can tell is able to transform back into his womb form, it's probably impossible for any sorcerer at this point to copy his exact movements. Because the domain works on such a precise cellular level, even simple movement can have an extremely adverse effect on your internal organs and body as a whole. And of course it wouldn't be a chapter with Naoya in it without him chatting shit. How can bro look at the two sorcerers on the ground and say, yeah, what a great domain, and I feel great too. After this, he tries to sense Maki within the domain but is unable to, and he's under the assumption that even if she has no cursed energy like Toji, he should still be able to know where she is. And one thing I do find a little funny is his use of honorifics towards Toji, and the amount of respect that he has for him. If there's a chapter with Naoya in it, 9 times out of 10 he'll talk about Toji in some way or form. I've never seen the character dick ride a dead man so hard in my life. By the way, if you enjoy the content, a subscribe would be much appreciated. Daido gets up and goes for a slash on Naoya, and judging by the fact that he was able to get up, I'd assume that every time Naoya wants to apply the domain's effect on them, he has to hit them with the tentacles every time after they've moved. At this point though, Daido is pretty much fodder to Naoya within the domain, as he's able to easily chop off his arms, specifically the one wielding the sword. In the next panel we see a pair of hands emerge from the dark as if to catch the sword in what I can only presume to be a smile from Daido, and then bow, Naoya gets a sword right through his chest. And this is probably the thing I've been anticipating the most in the fight since the colony has started, how heavenly restriction users function in domains. Because Maki and Toji have no cursed energy, they're classed as something inanimate like a building or a structure. So unless the barrier is a physical object like the gym Megami used in his fight with Reggie, or she decides to intentionally invade it, she can't be trapped within a domain. She can just enter and leave as she pleases. So I'm guessing if she just doesn't feel like fighting in a domain, she can just chill outside until it goes down. I don't know. After we get this information, we get a heartfelt moment between Maki and Mai, which is what I envision to be the last one that we'll see. Mai wanted to show Maki how to truly wield her weapon, which is called the Soul Liberation Blade, which is such a cool name by the way. And this cursed tool is also insane. It ignores the durability of everything and cuts the soul directly, but in order to use it to its full potential, the user must be able to see the souls of inanimate objects. And I feel like if there was or is a debate about heavenly restriction Maki or Toji versus Mahito, this chapter ends it. If Mahito was alive or if he comes back in some form, the sword would be able to damage his soul directly, and I'd assume if you're at the point where you can see the souls of inanimate objects, you'd be able to protect your soul pretty well, which is a layer of defense against idle transfiguration. Anyway, back to the chapter. Naoya is back on his bullshit, being as disrespectful as he could possibly be, and starts morphing his body to attack Maki, but she just cuts him down the middle. And at this point, this is where we're told sure hit effects have no way to recognize Maki. Another fierce human on par with Zen'in Toji has been fully realized. What a fucking chapter. The Maki and Toji haters, the power scaling community are probably in absolute shambles after it, but content wise it was was nothing short of amazing. Maki being as strong as Toji and her being immune to short hit effects definitely put her up there in terms of strength. A domain like Malevolent Shrine would still probably just nay on Maki and Toji though, as it's a domain that manifests into the world physically. Now I don't think the short hit really matters because it's just an endless storm of cleave and dismantle. I may be misinterpreting, but that's just the conclusion I've come to after this chapter. And I just want to very briefly touch on a statement concerning Maki's development 2 chapters ago. Breaking the stalemate requires the arrival of an external piece to the game board. Rather than this statement implying that Daido was going to be the one to defeat Naoya, I thought that this statement was more meant for Maki's awakening. Based on her sumo matches, it seems like there was internal conflict within Maki, and she had reached a stalemate within herself. She was frustrated that she couldn't figure out what the difference between her and Toji was. Even though they've just made their appearances, both Mio and Daido have already seemed to succeed in their goals of chess pieces that break the mold. Daido's showcase of his abilities pushed Maki to further question the gap between her and Toji, and Mio was the answer to that question. It seems like Mio was the external piece that she needed. Not just in this fight, but during her lifetime, as he was able to teach her an extremely important life lesson. Hopefully you enjoyed the video though, and as always, thank you for watching and have a nice day.